Good morning, everybody. Happy snow day. We made it here.
Yeah.
We are with the incredible Asher Gardner of Asher Gardner Photography.
Hi, guys.
We work with her pretty regularly. She's one of our favorites. She has such a unique eye and design style that we just get so excited, and we needed to talk to her for an episode of Behind the Bouquet. So welcome to everybody, and welcome to Asher. Thank you so much for coming on.
Janine, thanks so much for having me. It's so great to be here. So
Yeah.
excited to kind of share some tips and chat a little bit.
Absolutely, and I really mean it when I say you are an incredible pleasure to work with, and it's really, we know it's going to be a fun wedding day when we're teaming up.
Yeah, no, same to you, Janine. Honestly, you're one of the best planners in New York City, and such a joy to work with. Same. So, people, Janine is a good planner. The planner you want to have by your side, truly. So.
So maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background, what brought you to New York City, let's start with that, and then we can kind of carve out the rest.
Okay. Yeah, so I lived in California, so grew up in California my whole life.
Shocker, look at her, she's a California girl.
So this snow is a little weird. Still getting used to all of that. But yeah, grew up in California, loved doing photography in high school, in yearbook, and developed in the darkroom back when digital was just way too new, and film was what I could afford. So I was the dorky girl in the yearbook lightroom, or the darkroom, figuring all that out, and then still did photography classes in college, and then I met the man of my dreams, and he got a job here in New York City, and so we, you can't turn down that opportunity. So,
I think it would be pretty hard. So.
Yeah, and we were just newly married, so we're like, why not have an adventure in New York City? I always joke about this, I used to watch Gossip Girl all the time. So
let's be honest, who hasn't watched Gossip Girl?
Yeah, so in my mind, that's the only thing I'd known about New York. I had never visited before, and so I was like, I think we need to live on the Upper East Side. I think you need to go to the steps of the Met. So that's where we kind of found ourselves at first, and yeah, it's been a fun, incredible journey ever since.
And Dave, just listen, because you had an apartment on the Upper East Side.
Yes, yeah.
Right, steps from the Met.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Kudos to him.
Yeah. Thanks, Gossip Girl. So yeah.
That's really great, and you really made a name for yourself. How long ago was this that you moved to New York City?
It'll be 6 years at the end of this year, so it's been quite a bit of time, and that song, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere.
Sure.
So yeah, really started to really dig deep in growing when we got here,
and you just basically kind of put your website together, and you never took a job with a photography studio over here or anything?
No, I had actually photographed weddings previously before we had moved, and then I had reached out to a couple of really incredible female photographers, and I did some second shooting with them to kind of build my way of, I didn't know anything about New York, to kind of understand which venues were really great, how to get to certain places, and it was exciting for me because I am so inspired by the old New York feel, the classic architecture. We don't have that stuff. I mean, we do, but in a different way in California.
Right, and I think that it definitely comes through in your work, but with a lighter, you have this glow that you can represent it with.
Yeah, I say that I bring the California glow and the California sunshine and light to my images, but still have that classic, inspirational New York feel to them. So yeah,
I agree with that 1,000,000%.
Yeah, it's been really inspiring to be in the city and kind of see the city views and the city lights and all that stuff too.
Nice. And so what's a booking with you, a client booking with you like? So they might find you on Instagram or through, another channel, and then what's that process like?
Yeah, so I usually like to have an initial either call or meeting with my couples just to make sure we're a really good fit. Mm-hmm. I think personality is good to, make sure that it builds that trust of, oh, Asher, she's a normal person, and, I'm a real person.
Yeah.
So building that first, and then we kind of go through the process of, I send them some tips along the way, how to get the most out of their, if they have a first look, or, how to help prep for getting ready photos, how to structure family photos. which can be super stressful. So yeah, we kind of work together throughout the process. I really love like enhancing the client experience for my couples, and if they do an engagement session, we usually meet for that, and that's a great dress rehearsal that I say. It's a great way to be in front of the camera, see how we interact, because a lot of my couples, obviously they've never done this before, so they get to be comfortable in front of the camera and see how it works and be, you know, like, oh my gosh, it's not that hard, not too difficult. So
Absolutely. So let's say I was your client. Like,
Yeah.
I am awful in front of like the camera. I like look at photos of myself and I'm just like, that is not okay. And so what are some, you know, like especially like a romantic photo, I'm like a giggly person. I would just like not be okay with the like smooching and so what's like maybe some tips that you do give clients?
Yeah, and I think like exactly what you said. So getting to know my clients is really key. To say like, oh, Janine, maybe you and your husband want to have more like giggly or fun or sweet photos. So a lot of things that I do are movement based, so that they're not, you know, a normal iPhone, you're just like really stiff and just like, hi, smile. With a professional photography, we do like lots of movement, lots of walking, maybe a spin, and that kind of helps loosen you up.
Right, and you probably don't even realize that the photo is like going off.
Yeah, so a little tip is I actually have people do walking, or even something that might be a little bit like, oh, walk here, do this, do this, do this, so that you forget, you're more concentrated on those actions and what you have to do than realizing that I'm right there with the camera. So it becomes more natural over time. And then, you know, before you know, at the end of the session, you're just like, oh my gosh, like we've had a camera, we've had Asher here the whole hour. That just went by so fast. So yeah, it's trying to get to know how you guys would interact as a couple and bringing that out. And also, I would say there's little prompts that I give, you know, like, oh, whisper into her ear, or tell her something that you're really proud of her for. And those little prompts kind of change the emotions of that session.
And like they can be read right away on the facial.
Yeah. You know, when you're talking or when you hear somebody say something sweet, those types of things show up on camera.
Yeah, and it's a wedding day, so, you know, those things should be right at the tip of your tongue, people.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many emotions on a wedding day, so that's easy. So yeah.
And let's say someone has like an insecurity about a body part. Like, is there a way that, obviously you said getting to know the client before, like I'm sure that's something that would be addressed before.
Absolutely. So before a session starts, I would say, hey Janine, like, is there anything that you want me to be mindful of today? Is there a side that you like? Is there something like a pose that you like? Or even sometimes with dresses, you know, like, oh, this zipper keeps kind of popping out. Can we just be mindful so that we're on the same team? And I feel like, hey girl, let's move that. Or, you know, the bra strap might be showing a little bit, so that we're, you know, we can make sure we take care of it.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah.
And I really think like your attention to detail in that area will, you know, I personally know it makes a world of difference on your wedding day or an event day. It's just something that everybody should look for when hiring a photographer, and just the openness that Asher provides. So let's get into a few more details. You do destination weddings.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Let's say someone in Cabo wants to book you. Yes, please. You know, what does that look like?
So with destination clients, if they are in the city, which most of them have been, we definitely do an in-person meeting, just because a destination wedding, there's a lot of different things going on. You know, you have to plan a lot more in advance. I want to make sure that they have a planner or a coordinator that I can also work with, because there's a lot of moving pieces. I also just want to see that there's a good fit. You know, we're going to be traveling, and typically I get there 3 or 2 days before the wedding. So I get there 2 days before the wedding in case something happens the day before. You don't want
This is worth the expense.
This is the biggest tip right here, is your photographer absolutely needs to come 2 days before the wedding date, because if flight, delay, snowstorm, you do not want to be stressing out that they're going to be not available. So, you know, in that time frame, we're going to be hanging out. I'm going to be seeing your family. You know, there's going to be a lot more time. Typically, that also includes rehearsal dinner. So I really do want to make sure there's a good fit, that there's a good click that we both have, and then work on that from there during the process.
Do you check your cameras, or do you bring them as carry-ons?
Always carry on my my gear. Always, absolutely.
That's
so,
what I want to hear, folks.
Yeah.
That is like must carry on, and you get that special tag. Like,
yeah.
this has to come on.
Yep. So basically, I have a suitcase and a backpack, and basically all of my carry-on, I will check another piece of luggage, and in that is like clothes and makeup and hair products and stuff. But I have usually a change of clothing so that no matter what happens, I have either like a dress or a pair of clothing, and then all of my lenses, all of my gear, all of my cameras in the suitcase that rolls on with me, and then extra flashes and equipment in my backpack, and that stays with me the entire time, so it doesn't leave at all.
Perfect. And when I do destination events and pricing them out, we can just bounce some ideas off here.
Yeah.
You have to factor in that that's time out of our office space that we're not going to be there. So that's why the pricing differentiates a bit, at least for me. My team and I not in the office for 2 or 3 or 5 days. We're not just sunning ourselves in the Cabo sun.
Totally. Yeah. There's images that I'm still editing. There's clients I'm still getting back to. I am still working. Yeah, it's not just, I'm not sitting by this resort drinking Mai Tais.
And I think another important thing is always have your vendors book their own travel, but just keep up with it. Otherwise it just gets too overwhelming, and they know how they like to fly, if they like the red eye or the first flight in the morning, and just make sure your vendors are comfortable doing this as well.
Yeah, that's another thing. From friends of mine who had done this, if the bride has points, or hey, can we book you on this, or can we take care of it? And unfortunately, because one of the times she was booked on points, so she got delayed because she was on standby, and so now it caused a bigger problem. So because of that, as a rule, I book my own travel so that if a flight needs to be changed or it needs to be rerouted somewhere, I'm in control. I don't have to be hounding down the bride poolside, oh, I need to get a confirmation number from you or something.
For sure.
So.
So we touched upon contracts a little bit.
Yeah.
You have a pretty sizable contract. Do you want to go into how that's evolved over the last 6 years?
Yeah.
I know ours has evolved from lessons learned and funny stories. So maybe touch upon that.
Yeah, I think through the years, just going through different experiences, and a big thing for me is client communication. So making sure expectations are set, and also that the client feels, okay, we know exactly what we're getting. We know that everything is spelled out and really, really clear. So I've just added different clauses through the years with the approval of my lawyer, making sure, checking everything. But I think my contract is very, I've tried to get away, it still has that legalese in it, but it is very clear. So there's different clauses that touch on from beginning to booking to all the way to the album process, and what an album looks like, when delivering, and how designing it, and how that works with the timing. So
and I think you can actually understand your wording too, so I appreciate that from your contracts. They're not just lawyer jargon.
Yeah, client shall, all these things. I mean, there's some of that in there, but a lot of it's just spelled out really clear about, even I have a clause about artistic process and what that looks like, and my style, and what you can expect on the wedding day. So
So we also, just in our brief conversation before we started filming, you had said oh gosh, I have to turn off an alarm. So you are someone who seems structure is a big, it's a big player, and it folds into your client communication. So what does that look like?
I'm more of a type A person, but still, let things flow. But one thing that I've been trying to structure this year is, I'm sure you've felt the same way, you can look back at 6 o'clock and you're like, what did I do all day? And you've just been on emails all day, and you have a to-do list that's 50 things long. So what was happening a lot last year is, between editing and emails, I would just be a zombie to my computer all day, and I realized that I needed to get some structure. So I started putting on some different alarms and doing the Pomodoro technique.
I do not know that.
Yeah, so Pomodoro technique is basically concentrated work times for segments. So you can do different amounts, 25, 30, 35, 40. They don't recommend anything longer than an hour, but basically you set up, so there's an alarm. You do concentrated work at the task that you need to absolutely complete for about 20, 30 minutes, and then you get a 5-minute break to just kind of, okay, like maybe check something, maybe you thought of something, maybe, you know, run to the restroom, do that type of thing, and then the alarm goes back on, and you're back focusing at the task at hand. So I've tried to structure to where in the beginning morning of the day, I'm doing all the emails related to clients or, you know, upcoming inquiries, that type of thing, so that, you know, doing that and then focusing on tasks that I need to complete, getting timelines to clients or
responding. The more artistic.
Yeah, responding
process.
To locations or, you know, finishing up editing and uploading galleries to clients so that I'm still accomplishing my important and urgent tasks as well. So yeah.
And I always like find this, and I think as we're evolving as like millennials, and I don't think I'm a millennial, but I forget what I am.
I am just like at the cutoff.
I think I'm just the cutoff as well.
Yeah. I'm an elder. There's an elder millennial.
Yeah,
That's
so I'm a geriatric millennial. And I always feel like if I have 4 uninterrupted hours, like I can knock out my to-do list. I don't need like a work day of 9 a.m. to, I mean, it's not 5 p.m. anymore. But like if I just have 4 hours, like it is incredible. So, you know, and taking like organized breaks, it's such a great idea.
Yeah, and it just shows that you can get work done because, you know, I think we multitask so much. We're doing this, an Instagram message, oh, we need to write this person back, oh, a phone call came. You know, there's so much to manage, but if you just sit down and like, okay, I need to bang this task out, I have an hour to do it, I have 2 breaks, you can, and that's another thing too, in setting the timers, I can do anything in 25 minutes.
I know.
You can do,
I know.
You're like, sometimes you put things off too, you're like, oh my gosh, but if it's just an hour, if it's just 2 hours, you can get it done.
For sure. So we touched upon your email habits, and do you do a site visit like before the wedding day?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I actually don't. A couple of reasons, because when dealing with destinations especially, I found that I don't really need to. In fact, Google Earth and Google Maps and satellite view, and I actually have this thing called a sun tracking app. So I can open this app and see where the sun is going to fall and where the shadows are going to be at a certain time.
That's crazy.
So for me, that is actually more important, is the sun and the lighting placement. I don't actually need to see the venue beforehand because a lot of times things change. So I did, a long time ago, I went and did a site visit, and by the time the wedding day came around, this was in a different location, these were in bloom, this, you know, the lighting was completely different, and what happened was the bride was really stuck on those locations.
And the expectations from the client
absolutely
dropped.
Yeah, absolutely, where I know good quality light when I see it and be like, oh my gosh, this glow and this light coming through these trees, like this is going to be beautiful, and I need that flexibility. And day of, I mean, that's where my expertise comes. I can, within 5 minutes of any spot, be like, right there, this is going to be the best lighting on shadows, this is going to be the best lighting on skin tones. So I don't really need to see the site beforehand. I think it's definitely valuable, of course, for planners and you know, what you're doing. But because mine is so light based, and if it's sunnier than normal or if it's cloudier than normal, in fact, when it's overcast, it completely switches the way that I shoot. Complete opposite. So if we were to choose this spot and it's sunny, if it's cloudy, I would actually choose the complete other side, because the way backlighting and shadows work on your eyes. So yeah, I always talk to clients about that. I don't need to be there. That's where, I mean, my expertise. Within 5 minutes of any space that I'm in, I can find, all right, there we go, we're gonna shoot right here, or we're gonna shoot over in this area.
Yeah, I mean, we just did a styled shoot 2 weeks ago,
exactly.
and I was like, oh, we're very excited to unveil that in a couple weeks, but stay tuned. I set everything up in this one room, and Ash was like,
the light,
let's swap.
Yeah, the light was different that day.
And it was the perfect place for it to be.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, okay, let's say I was getting married on a day like today. Like, there's hail hitting the window at this very moment.
It's snowing.
I'm sure it's going to turn to rain. Like, I mean, I know what I do to calm, you know, my clients down during this time, but, you know, is it worth it to go out and get that outside shot on a day like this? Do you rework your whole day?
Yeah, couple of things. So leading up, depending on the season, especially if it's winter time or early spring, we definitely have a plan B in place in case there, and sometimes even in, like we were talking about, the fall when it's raining.
I know.
Yeah. So we usually have a plan B. You know, this is plan A for the first look if it's outside, and here's plan B if it's raining or snowing. And we can fall back on that as an option. If it's something like this, I kind of lean on the clients to say, you know, if it's dry snow, you know what I'm talking about, where it's like light and fluffy and pretty, we can definitely shoot in that. But I always am very mindful. I think photographers can get a bad rap for pushing people and making people do crazy things just to get the shot.
Like pulling them out at sunset.
Yeah. And I mean, I will do that, but I like to do that, like asking them, hey, it's up to you. You don't have to. You can do this if you want. And truly valuing the time. You know, if I say, I promise it will be 5 minutes, honoring that. Like, it will be 5 minutes. I'm not going to sit there and I think, you know, some photographers are there for an hour and you're like, goodness gracious, lady.
You've got the shot already.
Yeah, so I think, and I've made promises before at different venues and saying like, let me take them out 5 minutes, I promise. And every time vendors always like, it's 5 minutes on the dot. And I'm like, promise, I keep my word and like to honor that.
Yeah, like as a planner, like I appreciate that, and you know, one of the reasons we work very well together.
Yeah. Because there's so many things that you're in charge of that if things start going late,
you know,
then
this makes me look bad.
Yeah, right. And it's not just about the photography. You know, like there's a bigger piece and honoring like times of what vendors are doing.
So I'm just a little curious about your wedding day.
Yeah.
Tell us what you did for. Was it California wedding?
Yeah. We got married outside of San Francisco in the Redwoods. So UC Berkeley has a botanical garden that has so many gorgeous things. So yeah, there's a redwood garden grove with the gardens and the big redwood tree. So it was outdoors, a beautiful day. And then we had like a reception by the water. Like you can see the San Francisco Bridge in the background. So yeah.
How'd you choose your photographer?
She was actually an incredible friend of mine. We still work together to this day. Yeah, her name is Kate. She's so talented. She's a total sweetheart. And again, it's that trust. I felt like I trusted her. I connected with her. I could, you know, I knew that she was going to get incredible photos, and she did. Like,
was photography the most important thing to you?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it definitely was. That was what we carved out to be most important for sure. And
I guess you had, you know, you didn't really need much floral if botanical gardens and like overlooking the San Francisco.
Yeah, we didn't do, you know, there's some, but yeah, not a whole bunch, so yeah.
Awesome. Well, I definitely got a whole new side of Asher, lots of details.
Yeah.
You should all be jealous of her travel schedule. She's everywhere and everywhere every weekend.
Yeah.
And she loves to explore, and I think you bring a lot of that inspiration into your work.
Yeah, that's what I love. It's traveling to new places, seeing new things, like being in New York City. It's all new. I mean, I've been here for a few years now, but getting inspiration from new places, new venues, you know, different settings like tropical or mountains or snow, all of that stuff is really inspiring to me. So I get to photograph it.
For sure. And so you're pretty heavily booked this year.
Yes.
And you're taking queries for 2020?
Yes. Yep. Starting to book for 2020. I book a year out, so starting to book for, you know, spring of next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as a planner, I always recommend like photography as one of the top things to secure first.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, the good ones are pretty limited, and you want to get someone who you can communicate with and get to know. Mm-hmm. So definitely one of the first things on your list.
Yeah.
After, you know, booking a venue.
How long do clients book you out?
I'm into fall of 2020.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so that's definitely comes first for sure.
Just because I think sometimes like they need me to find, well, I don't think, I know sometimes they need me to find the venue, and venues are probably even looking at like 21 at this point, especially in New York.
Oh yeah.
Well, thank you. Anything else you want to address?
No, I think this was great. You know, it's great to be here and share with you. And all of the people on Facebook Live or the
We've
live
linked
channels?
her Instagram handle, so definitely take a look at her work. And thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Janine.
Bye, everybody.